man, is when we first met, we met through a mutual friend, right? And this mutual friend said, "Hey, I have the CTO that I think you need to meet. I think you can bring some value to your business." And I was like, "What in the world is a CTO?" So, for the people that don't know, can you tell them what a CTO is and what you do?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So as far as the CTO goes, and a fractional one at that, right? We're throwing some abstract vocabulary. Fractional CTO really is an entry title as far as the roles and responsibility of a CTO. So CTO is Chief Technology Officer, right? So for me, what that means is I serve part-time or on-demand technology leader kind of support for real estate businesses that aren't yet ready for a full out formal role in the organization where you have a CEO, CTO. It's like a part thing, right? And so for me, I provide the same kind of strategic guidance, the same kind of tech oversight as a formal CTO does, but in a little bit more of within a flexible capacity. So in a nutshell, like I said, it's just part time, fractional role, fractional cost, which is just as important. All to say, my job is to really help leaders in our space just focus on the bigger problems that they need to solve and just seeing what I could do on the technology front.
So, you pretty much come in as would you classify yourself as like a technical integrator?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So when it comes to the traditional definition of an integrator, where that's a little different, in my opinion, is you have the integrator, the traditional sense, right? Who's going to be looking under the hood, who's going to be checking out the engine, telling you what's wrong, and actually going in there and fixing it. Whereas in, a, in an executive leadership role, a CTO is going to be doing kind of the same thing, right? They're going to look under the hood, they're going to tell you what's wrong, and they're going to help support, provide the resources that can be able to fix it. They're not getting into the nitty gritty. I know how to code, I know how to design, I know how to hook up databases and tech stacks, but for me, the value in what I can provide in the service that I give to my people is just putting my brain at work. And it's just, it's a little bit of a nuance, but that's a difference between an integrator and what I do as a fractional CTO.
Got you. Okay, that makes sense. Many real estate investors do, they operate with like patchwork systems, right? Maybe it's like spreadsheets or off the shelf tools, or they just go with a lot of gut instincts, right? So, what are like the most common technology or process gaps that you see in real estate business, and how do you begin addressing them to bring clarity?
Yeah, none of it really, none of the technology, because like when I'm talking to a visionary, when I'm talking to a leader, a non-technical expert in their space, a lot of them don't, like they know technology, they know it exists, they know how to spell AI, but at the end of the day, when it comes to pulling open that hood, right? What often happens is you see a Frankenstein tech stack. And so, when you're involved in that kind of environment, it really does make it a little hard to see the big picture. And the big picture for me, when I take a bird's eye view and really just look at things from a much higher fidelity, a lot of it is just having like really no source of truth, right? Like the key information is spread across like multiple spreadsheets, multiple software. A lot of it too often happens, or what often happens is a lot of manual processes. And obviously, a lot of manual processes mean a lot of human error, right? A lot of investors are manually, or their VAs or their team, right? They're manually entering, re entering data from one system to another. And obviously, it's hard to manage. It's hard to track and keep a good grip on a lot of that stuff. Another thing that I see in our space is a lack of clear SOPs because a lot of those systems are just like like a huge hodgepodge. A lot of team members might be doing things their own way. There's no standardized processes for, like, for example, like how a lead is handled or how to do a rehab project. It's a lot of that inconsistency that leads to chaos. And I think most importantly for me, like I'm a big time data geek. Like there's no, like a lot of really hard hitters are missing performance tracking and KPIs. a lot of leaders have they they, they have a little they have little ways of defining what like KPIs mean to them. Maybe they know how many houses were flipped last year, but they don't know the conversion rate of leads to deals, the cost per lead, and any kind of marketing channel. And a lot of those things without tracking, they can't really identify what's working and what isn't. And so a lot of that, what that results to is pouring money into a marketing channel sometimes that isn't even performing, and they find out 3 months later. And so those are the biggest rocks that I've seen that I find a lot of leaders need more help with.
Got you. So, at what point do you think someone needs to start integrating systems and processes? Because a lot of people that get into real estate wholesaling, for example, they don't necessarily need the systems and processes to start out, right? They're just getting things going. They just need to know the fundamentals to get their first deal. What point of the business would you say that you need someone like yourself, like a CTO, or need to start looking into integrating the systems and processes?
Yeah, when at first we'll call them startups, right? Like a lot of startups, a lot of solo entrepreneurs, like they're gonna have to find out their own secret sauce, right? And I find a lot of really smart people end up getting some like super hardcore shiny object syndrome, and they try to find the best CRM, they try to find the best tool, and they're thinking, oh, I need to hire the best lead manager, I need to hire the best acquisitions manager, or I need to bring over a technology expert, bring in an integrator. And at the end of the day, man, like a lot of these folks just don't have their system all the way figured out yet. And so they're just bringing in more layers of complexity into their system and just end up hitting brick wall after brick wall. And so I would say for those startups, for those solo entrepreneurs, for those that are just starting, like honestly, you're gonna have to wear a couple hats for a little bit. You got to figure out what's working for you. You got to figure out what isn't, and you really got to get a taste of what entrepreneurship really looks like. Because man, this you got to have a really strong stomach for this stuff. And so once you reach that level where you're consistently making deals, you can validate that the system that you're using is actually working, and you're just like, okay, now what? I'm working in the business, or I've hit a wall or a glass ceiling, right? And I know that I got a working system and I just got to scale it. Like these are the things that someone like me would come in and say, okay, here's the fine tweaks we need to make. Here's like a system that we need to start maybe considering as far as how we could scale the system a little bit further. Yeah, CTO is a little bit more of an advanced lever that you want to pull. And that's like I said, once you actually got a system and you're just looking to get bigger, really.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm going to pause this. All right, George, welcome to the show, man. We're in a world right now where AI is really starting to take over and dominate, and everything is about AI and tech right now, right? But for the audience that does not know, because I got introduced to you through a mutual friend, and when this mutual friend spoke of you, he's like, hey, man, I got a CTO that I want you to meet. And I was like, what the hell is a CTO?
Yeah.
So, for the audience that does not know, can you explain to us what is a fractional CTO and what do you do?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, so a fractional CTO, so CTO first off stands for Chief Technology Officer, right? So for me, what that means is I'm going to be serving part-time or on demand as a technology leader for any kind of real estate business that isn't ready for a full-on like enterprise level organizational type role. Or when we talk about CTOs, we think of like high in the food chain executive type positions, right? $500,000 salary is what we're talking about. And so for me as a fractional leader, I'm going to be providing that same type of strategic guidance and technical oversight as those traditional counterparts, but in a little bit more of a flexible capacity. And so what that means is I might work with a real estate company a few days a month to align their technology with any kind of business goals that they might have. I'll be designing scalable systems, leading any kind of technology efforts. The sky's like this, the spectrum is wide. Little projects all the way to being in the driver's seat of the complete technology strategy, right? And so a lot of what the role is especially going to be useful for with smaller real estate businesses is that need for high level technical direction, but just can't bring on that executive leader that requires like a $500,000 salary. And so for me, I'm going to step in that gap, offering that executive level type leadership, providing the decision making on a budget type, and being there on a schedule that makes sense for these folks. It's really just a way for growing companies to get that big company expertise in technology without that full-time cost. So it's all about just part-time leadership, part-time costs, part-time just in the weeds of the business.
Understood. So, what's the difference between like you and an integrator? What separates a CTO and an integrator?
Yeah, so good question because it often comes a lot because a lot of our space in real estate, it's always visionary and integrator, right? So those are like the things that drive the the two halves of the business, right? The visionary is that long-term strategic thinker. The integrator is going to be the short-term tactical person that's charged of the execution. As an integrator, the way it relates to what I do in a fractional CTO capacity is we're both looking under the hood. Me as the fractional CTO and the integrator, like we're both looking under the hood. But the integrator, as they're looking over the engine, making sure everything works and what isn't, they're going in there and they're fixing it. They're connecting the dots, they're putting in the plugs, they're installing new wires and everything. As a fractional CTO, I'm doing a lot of that same stuff, but I'm not the actual one connecting the dots and hooking up the systems. I've got a full team that's able to do all that kind of stuff for me. Just making sure that we're providing the right type of support to drive the business objectives is where the value of that fractional CTO leadership comes in. A lot of what I do, obviously I know how to code. I know my way around databases and whatnot, but I don't want to spend my time in the weeds of hooking up databases and whatnot. A lot of the value that I provide is in my brain. And so through all the experience that I've got in corporate, all the different businesses that I've helped move the needle on, there's a lot of empirical wisdom, a lot of knowledge and expertise that I'm able to provide and give insights for other real estate businesses. That's where I want to help the visionaries move the needle.
Got you. So, when you look at the average real estate business, right? One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of people that are in the real estate business are ran by visionaries, right? And the ones that are successful, the ones that kind of separate themselves from the ones that are unsuccessful, is they have good systems and processes in place to keep track of the KPIs. When it comes to the average real estate business, what's some of the messes that you see, and what are like the band-aids that they're doing to patch things up so they can keep moving along?
Yeah. No, it's a very common issue. The thing with visionaries and KPIs is as a visionary, the metrics that you want to see are green light, yellow light, red light. Like, I don't want to dig any deeper than that, right? Obviously, we could drill down as data nerds and geek out on like super crazy metrics and performance metrics and whatnot. But my goal is to find a way to articulate the how the business is running from an operational perspective and articulate it in a way that a non-technical expert can understand it, right? A visionary wants thumbs up, thumbs down. And so obviously there's going to be some key performing indicators. There's going to be some important stuff for us to keep track of. And ultimately those are going to be what are tied into the vision of the business, right? So when you think of the vision that you've got for the business, there's strategic imperatives, right? I want to do this in my community. I want to have this kind of impact. These are the kind of deals that I want to make, and I want to hit these kind of different channels, right? So if we could find easy metrics that show this is how well we're converting, this is how much impact we're making in whatever space that we need to be measuring. The key is finding out how relevant metrics are tying into the business strategic imperatives. Like those are the things that we need to focus on because you can go to GPT and you can ask it like, what are some good KPIs or metrics for me to track? And it'll give you some pretty good ones, right? But as a leader, like you really need to find out how again, as the visionary, the long-term strategic thinker who's looking at roadmaps, not just like 6 months down the line, but like a year, 3 years, 5 years out. Like you need to find out how the things that you're tracking now are going to tie into that big goal. And so that really trims down a lot of these, what we call vanity metrics, and just making sure that you're looking at the right data, not getting distracted, staying focused. And that's the kind of stuff that's really important that a lot of leaders need help with.
So for someone that's using spreadsheets and they're hopping around 5 different apps, got all these subscriptions, what's the first thing that you would fix?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would fix, typically, what I would do is I would help choose a primary system because we need a hub. Like we don't want a whole bunch of disjointed things just floating around. And so we need to find like a portal, main hub. And then we just connect any kind of tools to that hub. And so we're also going to be cleaning up the data, right? We're going to making sure, again, we're looking at the right metrics. We're going to be finding ways to ensure the consistency of how the operation is actually performing. Because one of the one of the biggest, easiest ways that I keep myself and the people that I help on track is I follow so it's this 3-step thing. So it's traffic, conversion, automation, right? So if you can find metrics that relate to those three things and how they relate to the business, like that's all you're gonna ever need. So for traffic, if you got a pipeline that is not generating any traffic, like nobody's going through your opt-in forms, nobody's even clicking on your site, like it's all crickets, then obviously you got a pipeline issue and you need to figure out how to tap into every single channel you can like possibly think of. Being as creative as you possibly can to generate that traffic. Because without that traffic, you can't convert anything, right? That's the
Mhm.
second step. And so when you're at that conversion step and you've got that traffic, that's when you can start considering, oh yeah, how do I optimize my lead magnets? How do I A/B test certain ads that I put on Instagram or Facebook? What kind of email newsletters do I want to come up with, right? Like for you to focus on ways to optimize that conversion for the existing traffic will then help you understand what needs to be automated. Because a lot of people, they go reverse, right? They're like, I want to automate this, I want to automate that. They want like, but we could spend like a month, 2 months, 3 months automating something but it's probably not like the best thing for us to look at right now. And okay, oh, so that's not working. All right. Oh, we need a better lead magnet or we need a better course, right? A lot of folks, they end up going backwards because they don't want to deal with trying to figure out how to generate traffic because they don't know how, they don't know what's working. All they want to do is just get deals in front of them and close the deals. And that's how I would approach coming in
I
and
got you.
looking to see where they're at. Yeah.
Do you have any real life examples or any examples like a story of an investor that you came into your business was chaotic, it was messy, and you were able to like help turn things around?
Yeah, man. There's quite a few. So one story that I could think of in particular that sticks out the most is so I was helping out a leader who was making multiple $1 million per year, killing it in business. And so when I first came on board, he was like, "All right, George, we're gonna put you in charge of the tech. We're gonna start scaling stuff. We're gonna sky's the limit. We're gonna go above and beyond and do some crazy things together." And so I took a look at the system and bro, it was like nothing worked. Old systems, no formal frameworks, no strategies to do really to move the needle anywhere. And although like the fun part is figuring out how to scale, figuring out how to implement AI and advanced technology into the systems, like we're not there yet, right? We got to figure out how to add more rigor into the system. That way, when we do scale, like it's a rinse and repeatable process. And so for this guy, it was a pretty big mountain to climb because a lot of these leaders, what happens is, especially in real estate, you have people who are doing it the old way. They figured out a thing that worked and they're making a killing in the industry. And so day by day, literally hour by hour, especially with AI coming out, like things are changing by the second. And
Mhm.
so to be able to keep up with that kind of pace, like the old stuff isn't going to work anymore. And so when you have someone like me who's like spearheading the future and trying to bring like advanced things into the space, like a lot of times, not just with this individual, but with a lot of leaders, they're stuck in their ways. And they feel, in a way, they feel like everything that they've done to get them this far, by me asking for them to do this new thing, that they have to change everything about their business and everything's going to completely collapse.
Do you feel
And
like
that's
it's
the
like,
scary part.
it's like pulling teeth?
It's only pulling teeth because, like I said, they're used to working the old way. They're used to
Mhm.
working the way that has worked for them in the past. And obviously, they're bringing me in because something ain't working anymore. Yeah, the pulling teeth part is really when, for me, adding frameworks into the operation and being disciplined enough to go through the actual practice of seeing what those things actually look like from at a consistent level. It is asking a lot from leaders, and they're just used to wearing multiple hats, filling out the back of a napkin, you know what I mean? And so it really does prompt for a new kind of way of thinking. A lot of people are scared to do that. They want scale, but they don't want to do the scale activities.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's talk about SOPs a little bit. For me as a visionary, it almost seems like a waste of time sometimes because it feels like an extra step for my team to read instructions. And I feel like they need to know what to do from the things that I've taught them. But why are SOPs important in a business? And why do you need them written out?
Yeah, man. I love this question because it really gets to the heart of sustainable growth. The old way of SOPs, of creating an SOP, is like getting down a Word document and going through each step, having to type stuff out. But there's stuff out there that you can literally just record your screen and it'll tell you what buttons were clicked, what steps were used, what page was clicked on automatically and summarize it for you, right? Like all you have to do is do the process once and it'll summarize an SOP for you. There's some magical stuff out there. It's easy to think, I'm a small operation. I don't need formal processes. But that mindset, honestly, is exactly what keeps a lot of leaders from scaling. A lot of these SOPs and documented processes, they I'm not gonna lie, they might sound boring, but they definitely are for sure like absolute game changers. And since a lot of real estate investors, despite being entrepreneurial, like a lot of them are just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yep.
And just a lot of those repeatable processes are just, I need leads, I need deals, I need financing, I need property management, etc. Like they don't have the actual things in place to remove them from the business because that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to find someone to help you. Just because you can do it and you know it better than anybody else doesn't mean you should be doing it. And a lot of that tribal knowledge is either going to stay stuck in your head or you're going to stay stuck in the field doing the work. And so it's super important to make sure tasks are going to be done the right way every time, no matter who's doing them. It's always going to make things efficient. It's going to be easy to delegate, which is a whole nother can of worms. Like, even, I'm not gonna lie, like, even I have a little bit of an issue with delegation just because, in a way, I understand the reluctance for allowing someone else to do it because nobody can do it like me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I do it better than anybody else. And so to be able to trust someone else that could do that, honestly, man, like that is supreme leadership right there, is to be able to be clear on what the direction is, to keep moving, to empower your team and your employees, even if you know a better way of doing things, to let them come up with the plan on their own. That way it's their plan. They're more committed to it versus just being, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do it. And so all that comes with the consistency of using those SOPs, at least just for a framework and just getting through it that way.
So let's talk about tracking what really matters. A lot of people they say track your KPIs, but the problem is most real estate professionals they don't know what to track. So, what would you say is like the top 2 or 3 things that every real estate professional or business owner should be tracking?
It's a good question. For me, the top 3 are going to be so when I think of metrics, I think of it as layers, right? We talked about earlier how a visionary wants a green light, yellow light, red light, right? And that's the level of fidelity as you move through the organization, right? So if you go one more layer down and consider the top 3 metrics, for me, there's going to be lead metrics, they're going to be conversion metrics, and financial KPIs. And you could drill down and as far as you want to go in those categories, but I think those would be the top 3 that are most important to sustainable business.
How do you make it like dead simple for them to track? So that way they're not like mentally exhausted with trying to figure that out.
It's a good question. I think in order for you to have the right like, it all comes down to having the key players in the room. Like, you don't want the assistant to be a part of the high critical, like, super important decisions when you're looking over metrics. That kind of those kind of roles they can receive the messages that get cascaded to them, but when you have the most relevant people in the room to talk about the most relevant metrics, those are gonna be the people that understand. As a visionary and as a CTO, we're gonna talk about red light, green light, yellow light. That's what we're gonna be talking about. If you wanna drill down a little bit further, we can. But when it comes to, like, my development team, I'm gonna be looking at how long it took to add a automation, what kind of obstacles or risks that we had to overcome, or what kind of impediments that were in the way that kept us from being able to accomplish something. Those are 2 very completely separate situations, but both of them are very metric heavy. And so it all just comes down to who it is you're talking to and making sure that you have that layer of those levels of fidelity in the data that you're looking at with the right person.
Makes sense. What I want to talk about now, man, is automation and AI. People throw those words around very loosely, right? And sometimes I don't even think like people know what the hell they're talking about, right? So, what's some examples that investors do every week that should be automated right now?
Yeah, so right now, like we're still at the baby stages of AI, and already we see how crazy things are getting. Just like in the last week, we got agents running in ChatGPT and Perplexity, if you've ever heard it. And although they're in their infancy stage, like you can leverage tools like that. And what I'm getting at is if you have super simple admin type things, give it to an agent, right? And I'm talking about no code agents. Like you can design large language models and train AI and do all this crazy stuff. Like you can absolutely do that. But for the stuff that's out today, I'm using ChatGPT, the agent mode, to handle admin tasks. And I'm saving close to $1,000. Swear to God, like I'm saving close to $1,000 on vendors that I would have been using, on VAs and admin tasks that I would have had run to do my campaigns and whatnot. These are things that you can just tell AI and these agents to say, hey, I need you to message these people, or I need you to send out these emails. I need you to check on this thing and come up with some content for me. And so that stuff that goes without saying, man. Those are easy baskets, and you should definitely be take advantage of stuff like that.
So, you mentioned Chat GBT and Perplexity, right? And using those for AI and help with automation. What is what I noticed, man, is because I learned this from you, is it's very important to know how to talk to Chat GBT
Mm,
because if you just give it generic commands, it's going to give you a generic answer. So, what I've discovered through you is that it's super important to give it the right prompts. It's all
mm,
about the prompts, right? But for the non tech person, the visionary, if their budget is low and they can't afford right now to maybe hire a guy like you to come in and help with their business, what are ways that they can learn how to talk to AI so that way they can get it to do the things that they need it to do?
that I've seen as a pretty big problem and only because the way I think is very different from a lot of other people. And so let's just assume that I didn't have a background in corporate and I didn't know how to run strategy and I didn't know those keywords. The best advice that I could give for being able to navigate AI and the prompting is honestly just figuring it out. Spend like an hour just having a conversation with trying to get whatever it is that you need get done, however dumb you think you might feel. Like just ask whatever questions. The trick is at the end of whatever task or whatever it is that you found, the magic and being able to do that on your own is ask GPT, hey, if I want to do this again, give me a reusable prompt that I can use in the future that'll give me exactly what we just did. And it'll be in your words and the exact way that you understood it. And it's not coming from me, somebody who's like super technical. Yeah, run this API, check this backend connection. Like GPT will give it in exactly the way that you need for it to be delivered. And bro, honestly, like I have hundreds, if not thousands, of saved prompts that are, man, deep diving into some crazy stuff that I don't have the expertise in, but I'm leveraging those prompts because there's a lot of often time where I want to be able to tap into those like books that I'm reading. I take notes on everything, and books that I'm reading, courses that I'm going to, masterminds that I'm attending, different workshops that I'm at. I'm taking all my notes and I'm throwing it in GPT, and I'm saying, hey, I want to be able to do this. Give me a prompt that I can use in the future to do exactly this in this chapter or from this class or whatever. So yeah, you just go through it and just ask GPT to make you a prompt.
Oh, makes sense, man. You mentioned you're taking like all your notes and like uploading into Chat GPT. Like, what's the purpose of that? Is that so it can learn you and become like a super mini you in the future? Like, what is the value in doing that? Because I also started doing that every morning when we have our meeting. I have Otter. It records all of the virtual conversations that I have, specifically in Zoom, right? So what I'm starting to do is I'm taking the transcripts and uploading it to Chat GPT. So that way it's not just learning me and my business, it's learning my team. So it's for the non-technical person, like what should they be doing with Chat GPT aside from experimenting and learning some of the prompts and how to talk to it?
Yeah. So part of it, yeah, part of it is it learning about you. The other part of it is also finding a way to leverage those rinse and repeatable prompts that you told it to save at one point, right? So for me, if I have a very unique way of auditing technology, for example, super technical, there are going to be so many different steps involved that I might just forget. I'm familiar with the concepts, but I'm not going to remember every step involved. And so for me, I'm going to be saving it as a prompt, right? When I do that, if I choose to create it like so the GPT bots, right? You can create your own GPTs. And so if it's a good enough prompt, then I'll create a GPT for it. And the reason I do that, not only so I can just reuse a really good prompt that I like, but say I got a transcript from a coaching call that I did or a strategy session, right? If I use that transcript and I give it to that GPT that I just made, it'll follow the exact format, give me the exact output that I'm looking at. You can have a GPT those agents, like agents they all have a specific task, they all have a specific workflow. You can have that specific workflow applied to your transcripts, your notes, again, the books, the workshops that you're attending. So that for me is how I leverage transcripts and notes. I'm feeding it to GPTs that I already have and prompts that I've already saved so it can give me the exact stuff that I'm looking for.
Makes sense, man. Getting back into to real estate, what I'm noticing is like a lot of the big companies, a lot of the big guys, they are doubling down on tech and AI, right? And the small guys are still in hustle mode. They're still using spreadsheets, they're still doing things manually. Are you seeing like a gap between the big guys and the small guys? And on top of that, like, what can the small guy do to help close the gap?
The crazy thing is there's very little difference, man. It's very little difference. The key thing, honestly, bro, is just mindset. Honestly, like I said before, like somebody who wants to scale but scared to press the buttons and pull the levers that they need to in order to scale, for them it's like walking off a plank. But if you're going to scale, like you got to do things that you've never done before, and a lot of that newness is going to come with a lot of uncertainty, obviously understandable, but it's the key differentiator is the people who are able to adopt that mindset. They're able to say, okay, this worked for me. I can think of things maybe a little bit differently and just embrace that tech friendly mindset. Just acknowledging that tech isn't just going to be some kind of fancy add on, it's becoming the core to the remaining competitive, right? So that mental shift is key. And so it doesn't require for you to say, I'm not a tech person, but more what kind of simple tech improvements can I make, even if it's just this quarter to save me time and money. And a lot of times the small guy is thinking it's black or white. Oh, I got to change everything about my business. And it doesn't always have to be that way. So that's the biggest differentiator. It's like they're doing the same activities, but the leader is able to understand that one, they got to delegate, and two, adopt that tech mindset and that scalable mindset.
Okay. Dude, I'm a small guy at the end of the day. At this point, as of right now, I don't have any desires to be in one of these big juggernaut companies or one of the big guys, so to speak. Guys like me, we just want consistency. And I remember when me and you first met, I told you my story, where I'm at, the ups and downs, and how I just want to have consistency month after month and have a more predictable business. And you've came in and you've really helped that. And I got to give you credit for that. Using someone like you who's a fractional CTO, it's leverage for a guy like myself. And so I really want the audience to understand the value that someone like you brings. Can you give any examples? It can be in my business of the simple little things that you came in and made immediate impact, right? It could be anything, dude. Just anything.
Yeah. Let's see, let me think of some quick wins here. So a lot of the impacts are gonna like in the visionary perspective, I get how going over SOPs is like super boring, but I'm actually going over this exercise with another business leader. We're going through the entire operation. And SOPs in the grand scheme of things are very small. But like we're going step by step, going through the drafts of the SOPs, making sure that we're filling any blanks, and that stuff is boring. Like it's
Yeah.
boring. But by us going through that end-to-end experience, we're getting excited about, wow, we actually really we do that really well. And what's also being discovered is we have a gap here. We should be doing it this way. And so let's highlight this part of the SOP and come back to it later because we need to come up with a template for this or a checklist for that. And I don't like SOPs. I honestly don't. But for me,
They're
that helps.
essential though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, it helps me learn more about the business. And for the leader, it helps them learn more about the things that they need to focus on and also scale. That's the
Right.
word of the day, right? And putting them in place.
Okay. So last question I got for you, man. I think, and I'm putting you on the spot here. I think what we need to do is we need to do a live masterclass.
Yeah.
And we need to do a live masterclass, and we can use my business as an example for things that you've came in and you've integrated. And I want to see if you're down for that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Dude, I love being able to spread the wealth. And I'm going to be honest, like a lot of leaders, even in the technical space, a lot of them can claim AI. And it's not to shade anybody, like it's really not. But the one thing that I want for people to realize is like there is so much FOMO happening right now, that just because you say like a keyword or you make a page look fancy or whatever, that doesn't mean that it's real. Like, it's not. 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 Like Like people are like, oh, I gotta have that. That's the future. And just from someone who's in the driver's seat of this whole thing, yes, AI is game changing, but it's also a huge distraction. It
Yep.
really is. And so
That's big
nobody's
coming
thinking,
from someone like you too, that utilizes it every day. And I think that's important for people to know.
yeah, dude, nobody's saying that. Everybody's trying to capitalize on, oh, you want to save $50,000 on use this NAN workflow to automate. It's not that easy.
Right.
It's not that easy. And yeah, man, just being able to have a stage to be able to just be real. Like, dude, I would be so thrilled to just help other leaders like you, man, and just give them the real, let them know what's going to be a pitfall, what's a FOMO buzzword, how to stay away from shiny objects, and really just bring more focus and laser precision to their systems. Dude, like I could talk about this all day.
Yeah. I can tell you're passionate about it. You're great at it. And for all of you that are watching right now, please share, subscribe, comment. But most importantly, let us know what you guys want to see in the masterclass. Because I'm telling you, this guy has came in and done some amazing things in my business. For the month of June, we freaking exploded, had 13 contracts. And a couple months before that, we're only getting 2 to 3 contracts a month, which is good for a small person. But it just shows how when you have the right people come into your business, that is everything. Talent is so crucial in this business and making the right hires. And luckily for me, I met George through a mutual friend and our relationship has grown, my business has grown, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future. So, for all of you guys that are watching right now, tap in, share, subscribe, comment. George, any final words?
Yeah, man, I appreciate everything. First, for the opportunity to be able to link up here on the channel, and also just to everybody, just stay curious, right? Just be on perpetual R&D mode, but be smart about it. And if you got any tech questions, I'm always a DM away.
Awesome, man. Listen, dude, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody, you guys know what to do. I'll see you guys on the next one. Boom.